Well, good morning. My name is Willie Lawson. Listen, today we're going to talk about DEI and airplanes. Now, it doesn't take very much to figure out what it's required to fly an airplane, especially fly an airplane for a commercial regional carrier. Because what I want people to do is to stop equating female pilots with DEI when it comes to flying planes. So if you don't know what the requirements are, hang on. We're going to talk about that just a second. All right, we're going to break it down for you. We always hear about there are student pilots who are 14 and 15 years old and that kind of stuff, and that's where you can start your pilot training. However, let's go down from the certificate starting from being a student pilot up to flying commercial aircraft. This is going to be a little bit in the weeds, but I think you can hang in there. First of all, everybody, regardless, has to have a student start a student pilot certificate. And you got to be at least 16. You got to hold a valid medical certificate, class 3 minimum, be able to read, speak, write, and understand English. To get your private pilot license, you got to be at least 17, hold a valid medical certificate, at least class 3, complete ground training or home study course. You can do that. You got to finish the training. However, that's it. You got to pass the written knowledge test. And if you've seen the book that they get the written knowledge test out of, it's like this big. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff to know. A minimum of 40 hours of flight time, including 20 hours of flight instruction that you use sitting there in the left seat with your flight instructor, 10 hours of solo flight time, 3 hour cross country instruction. Cross country instruction is a time where you go from one airport and land at another that's at least 50 miles away. 3 hours of night instruction, that's an hour after the sun goes down. They figure it out, but it got to be dark. Okay, you got to be dark when you take off, and it's got to be dark when you land. 3 hours of instrument instruction if you're getting your instrument rating. 3 hours of instrument instruction, that means you can't see where you're going. You can only look at your instruments. Okay, and a one solo cross country flight of at least 150 nautical miles, and then take pass a practical test, which they call a check ride. That means that a licensed FAA instructor goes along with you, flies along with you, asks you questions while you're flying, watches what you do, asks you to do certain things. Everybody has to go through that. Oh, yeah, you pay for the privilege of that. You pay for the privilege of that. All right. The next level is flying it with instrument ratings, and all that is really is, like I said before, you learn to follow your instruments. You can't actually see where you're going. Can't see out the window. Sometimes they put what they call smoke goggles on you, and so you have to depend on your instruments, which is a tough thing to do. But before you do that, you have to hold a valid private pilot license. You have to complete the ground training, pass the written knowledge test, do a minimum of 40 hours of actual or simulated instrument time, 50 hours of cross country PIC time, and then pass another check ride, which you get the privilege of paying for again. Isn't that great? All right. Then you go to the commercial pilot license. You got to be 18. You got to hold a medical certificate, class 2 minimum, hold an instrument rating, complete all the ground training, pass the written knowledge test, and then have 250 hours total flight time, including 100 times of PIC time, 50 hours of cross country, 20 hours of flight instruction, 10 hours of solo time, or performing PIC duties. That is pilot in charge duties, by the way. One cross country flight of at least 300 nautical miles, 10 hours of instrument instruction, 10 hours of in complex aircraft. So complex aircraft has to do with the amount of horsepower and instrumentation. So there you go. And then you got to pass another practical test or another check ride, which you get the privilege of paying for again. 5, multi-engine rating requirements. So I've not seen many regional or commercial pilots that fly people around the country, like on Delta or an American airline or whatever, that weren't multi-engines. So you got to hold, first of all the single engine ratings. Okay. Then complete that ground training and and do another check ride. The APT certificate requirements for regional airlines, okay, are the same. So you have to do that. Let's go back and dig in some more. Let's see here. In order for most people, and this is the minimum, this is the basic. For most folks to become a commercial pilot for a regional airline, you have to be 23. You got to be able to read, speak, and understand English. You got to hold a valid medical certificate, first class. Got to be the healthiest, be able to see the best, all that stuff. A lot of times, you have to have a bachelor's degree or complete an FAA approved APT certificate training program. Have completed 60 semester credits hours of aviation and aviation related coursework from an accredited institution. 3. Uh, Flight experience requirements are the following: a minimum of 1,500 total flight hours. If you have a bachelor's, they'll reduce that to 1,250 hours. 1,250 hours minimum. And 500 hours of cross-country flight time. 100 hours of nighttime flying. 250 hours as a pilot in command, including 100 hours of cross-country time, 25 hours of nighttime. Here's your certification requirements. You got to hold a commercial pilot certificate. You got to you have to have an instrument rating. You got to pass an APT written exam. You must pass a practical test, another check ride with an FAA examiner. You also have to have the multi-engine rating. You have to have a current background check, drug testing, complete an airline-specific training program after hiring. All of them have some, this is our training. After you have all this stuff, they make you go through training again. Or maybe other airlines may have additional requirements past the ones that these are just FAA. So when we talk are people being hired on a merit basis, the process for this, the meritocracy is built in. The meritocracy is built in. And I have a problem with slapping a DEI label on everything, especially when it comes to this, when it's so easy to research and find out that it's almost impossible to do so. So when airlines decide to hire female pilots, they have to go through this. They're just not going. I mean, they're just not asking flight attendants, "Oh, you want to know how to fly the plane?" It's not happening. It's not happening. More and more women are getting into aviation. More and more women are flying airplanes. More and more women are going through this. So when you see things like we saw on the flight in that had problems in Toronto, and their marketing department said this is an unmanned flight. That's marketing. It's just marketing. Those pilots, all of them, male or female, have to go through all of this and possibly more. You know, we have this idea because I went to a school, I can run one. Because I was born in a hospital, I know how hospitals work. because I went to an airport and I flew in the back of an airplane. I know how airlines should work. Maybe you do. You probably don't. So if you are predisposed to painting a DEI label on everything, before you do that, before you say that someone is hired and it isn't because of their merits, find out what they had to do to actually get the job. If there are requirements such, and then find out if those people, if that people that you're angry at, if they somehow circumvented that. I don't believe that anybody who's flying an airplane right now that's in the sky right now carrying passengers has circumvented any of the things that I very quickly went over. I just don't believe it. Everybody's trained. You don't have to be a Herculean man to fly an airplane. You don't. You have to be tall enough to reach the pedals, like a car. You got to be tall enough to reach the pedals. That's it. All right. This was a quick one. Got to get out of here. So until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody. And for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.
Welcome to the Morning Report, a production of fightbackmedia.com, the #1 source of urban conservative information in America.